In 2018, I started a production company that worked with some of the biggest brands in the world to market their business and get customers through video on the internet. And in the time that we ran it, it generated around £7.5 million of revenue for the clients that I worked with, and 7 years later, I shut the company down. Today, I run a membership community called the Content Club where I help small business owners to create content that actually gets them leads and makes sales feel easier, and it's by far the most fulfilling business and purpose-driven company that I've ever run. And I'm going to share some of the lessons that I've learned in creating content for my own business in hopes that it will help you to save time on making the mistakes that I made over the last 15 years. Picture this, it's January 2026. You've got the new year, new me mentality, and you want to start going to the gym. You buy all the gear, all the clothing, all the kit, get a pretty strict routine going, and it feels quite hard to manage. 3 months later, you haven't been for a week, your motivation's fallen off a cliff, and the gym clothes that you bought are now starting to gather dust. For new video creators, this works exactly the same way. You buy all the gear, create a 12-month plan, and 12 weeks later, you haven't stuck to anything that you said you were going to do because life got busy and business started to take over. Now your videos feel like a burden to spend the time creating rather than what they could be, which is one of the biggest assets to generate leads for your business. Create one idea before thinking of the next. Use the equipment that you have before you start investing silly money in buying more. And build the habit before you start building the content plan for the next 10 years. If you don't do this, you're going to start to burn out very quickly. You'll lose momentum and you'll become fatigued with the process, throwing in the towel 3 months later. Old habits will kick back in, you'll tuck videos under the rug for the moment, and you'll never get back round to doing them, only to say that video never worked for your business. In reality, it does. It's the most powerful thing for a lot of smaller businesses to be able to market their business, but you need to keep the process simple. Failure is a feeling that you're going to get to know on a first-term basis really quickly, but you can't see making these mistakes as a loss or a failure. Instead, see these failures with underperforming videos or videos that you've created that haven't got the results that you wanted as a learning opportunity to make better content. You only learn that fire is hot by touching it, burning yourself and going, ouch, I'm not doing that again, that was stupid. It's the same thing with content. You can learn all of this stuff. You can spend hours learning how to make a video on YouTube, but unless you physically put yourself in that environment where you have to create it and make those mistakes, you're not going to grow. So the lesson here is that every failure gives you an opportunity to learn. Within the space of 3 years within my production company, I spent well over £250,000 on camera equipment. Fancy cameras, lights, mics, gear, lenses, camera bodies, the whole 9 yards. We would, as a team, allocate time to create content to build my personal brand. As the founder of that business, it was a really great way to generate relationships and build rapport with potential customers. They looked premium, they looked professional, and they showed me as the authority in a really heightened light. On the side, I started filming videos on my mobile phone. These at the time took me maybe a couple of hours to do from start to finish, from idea to delivery. When we compared the results between my personal content that I was filming on a phone versus content like this, it was an absolute fucking landslide. And we were spending days and spending a lot of money on employee time creating personal branding content on professional kit that was getting 5% of the engagement that I was getting from the content I filmed for myself on my mobile phone. What's more important than the quality of your content is the message, it's the foundations, it's the purpose, it's the intention, it's the goal. It's the actions that you want people to take when they've consumed your content to get them as a lead. The lesson here is that quality doesn't matter. In all honesty, creating videos can feel really painful, especially when you're just starting out. Low views, slow engagement, and people not really rooting for you from the sidelines yet. That's not necessarily because your content isn't very good, it's just because you are fresh to the market. And platforms need data to understand where to and who to push you towards. The only way you can start to grow on YouTube is by making more stuff that appeals to the right types of people. And the more data points that these algorithms have, the better people they're going to serve. It's why you start to see this kind of bell curve graph. Here is around your 0 video mark where it's really flatlined. Here is your 50 video mark where you've suddenly got 50 videos out that give these platforms the data that makes them understand who to best serve. In most cases, it just takes a bit of time to build that momentum. And whilst it feels like it's not working, what you're doing is compounding everything that you need to give these platforms the data they need to push it to the right people. The lesson here is that platforms need data. When I first started creating, my videos would always underwhelm me in terms of performance. I would be lucky to get 10, 20 views on a post that I've just spent 3 days making from scratch. But over the last couple of years, I've put a lot of time, money, and energy into learning about the art and the science of packaging, which is essentially the way that you present your videos to your audience through titles and thumbnails. So what I did was flip the process around. Rather than planning, filming, and editing the video to then think about the packaging, I did this first. I thought about the title, I thought about the images in the thumbnail, the text that people could read that was maybe 4 or 5 words long. Once I felt like the thumbnail and the title was strong enough, and I felt that people would click on the idea, I would bring that to life through making the video itself. Since I've been doing that, maybe over the last 2 years, I've seen such a huge difference in both the quality of the people that are engaging with my videos, but also the results that I'm generating from them. They are reaching a more specific audience. They are generating more results for my business, and ultimately it's helping me to get more customers. What this has taught me is that all social media platforms are basically packaging platforms nowadays. It doesn't really matter anymore how fantastic your video is. It could be the best thing on the fucking planet, mate. If it's packaged poorly, it's not going to work. So the lesson here is to focus 99% of your time on packaging. Like you, I am a business owner first, and I choose content and video as the mechanism to grow my customer base. But your content will only do that if you create a sense of urgency. Now, you have two different types of problems. You have a passive problem and you have an urgent problem. Passive problems are things like your content has low engagement, your content's not getting many views and impressions or likes, or maybe your follower count is dwindling a little bit. Urgent problems are things like your videos aren't generating new customers, or that you can't afford to pay your staff in 3 weeks' time because you haven't marketed your business and now you can't cover payroll. Passive problems get tucked under the rug and maybe brought up if and when you have a bit of cognitive load and a bit of time to think about them. Urgent problems need addressing right away because the implications could be catastrophic if they're not solved. Your videos need to address and solve urgent problems. For example, someone's not really willing to pay a premium to learn how to create a video that gets more views, but they are willing to pay a premium to find out how to create videos that generate them 10 times the value of clients that they usually get. That passive problem is focused on just getting more views for arbitrary sake. The other is actually maximizing the effort that people are putting into their videos to get more money and get more sales. If you start to create urgency in your content, I can assure you, you will start to generate more customers. You can enhance this by things like limited time offers, waitlists, or manufacturing that sense of scarcity, i.e. there's only 10 spots left before I do this thing, or there's only 25 seats at the table before I close the doors, something like that. The lesson here is that urgency encourages sales. It's more than likely that you've heard the term consistency is king, but this statement couldn't be more wrong. When you really break down who is saying this type of very vanilla, arbitrary, quite generic advice, they have no idea what they're doing. They know nothing about marketing, they know nothing about strategy, and they're just trying to have their moment on the bandwagon of saying what everyone else in marketing is saying. The reason this doesn't work is because it's nothing to do with the problem, it's just posting more, right? What if you are consistently posting crap content? Well, it's just not going to work, is it? Give yourself the space to create something meaningful rather than having to keep up with the tick box exercise of a weekly routine. The lesson here is that consistency isn't king. I started creating videos when I was younger, and these videos were predominantly gaming videos, my friends. They were purely for entertainment, they were a bit of a waste of time, but generally speaking, they were just a laugh to create. The problem is when I first started my business, I couldn't convert that audience of followers into active buyers of my product or my service. And that's because I wasn't positioning myself strongly enough to solve an urgent problem. It was purely entertainment value. So I've had to spend the last 8 years building what I feel has been a fresh personal brand, a new sense of authority, and I'm starting to build my reputation equity up as the video guy, which is great so far. For the last 8 years, all I've done is create content that has solved a pain or a problem for my specific audience. And because of that, I've been able to build an audience of people that actively buy my product and my service. In the loveliest way, people don't stick around and follow your content and engage with it because you are a nice person, right? They stick around because it helps them to solve a problem that they need fixing. Again, you are not the center of their world, they are, and rightly so. So the lesson here is to solve problems first. If there's one question that I get asked all the time, it's this. Jack, I'm worried that people will implement all the stuff that I give away for free. Should I continue to give free value? My answer to that is yes. Under-promise and over-deliver on everything that you know. I can assure you that 99.999% recurring of people will never implement the advice that you give. People are busy, they have other things going on, they've got their life, they've got to run a household, they've got to build a business and maintain a business. That in and of itself is a lot to handle for one person. And humans are like social sponges. We like to hold and retain information without really ever actually doing anything with it. But I will just say, if you're going to share value, make damn sure that you do it better than anybody else in your industry. And the question that I like to ask is, what are your competitors not willing to do? Do that. If your competition and if people in your market aren't willing to share a viable, valuable piece of information, make a 40-minute masterclass over it. Give people a free offer based on the back of it. Do something that your competitors aren't willing to do. So the lesson here is to give away for free. I'm going to give you two different messages, both of the same example. I want you to let me know which one you prefer. If you want to generate your first £10,000 client, this is what you need to do. You need to build a content strategy that drives people actively to your emails. On your emails, you need to build an automation that onboards people within the first 24 hours, so then have a drip campaign that sends emails over the next 30 days. You can achieve that by using a tool called ActiveCampaign or MailChimp that allow you to do this pretty seamlessly. All the while, you need to start to educate your customers through weekly educational content that allows them to understand the pains and problems that they have and how you can solve them. I spent 5 years trying to understand how to get my first 5-figure client. I borrowed money from my partner at the time that allowed me to invest into a course in terms of writing emails. And I wouldn't say that I'm necessarily great, but it seems to work. And I'd love to share what I've learned with you so that you can not make the mistakes that I've made. You had there example A and example B, and chances are you prefer example B. And that's because people remember how you've made them feel. They prefer the emotional side as opposed to just retaining rational educational information. They are both correct. One tells you how to do it, the other tells the story of how I've learned to do it. But chances are you associate yourself better with option B. So the lesson here is to create a feeling. Look at any of the best creators on the internet, and what do they have in common? Alex Hormozi, Gary Vaynerchuk, Casey Neistat, Nisha, they all have one thing. And that thing is that they say the same message every time they create a piece of content, but it always feels very different. The most important part about creating videos is that you want to establish trust, okay? And trust is built through establishing familiarity. And familiarity comes from repetition. If one day you're posting a blog about your business and the next you're teaching people how to save for their future retirement, and then the next you're talking about building your personal brand, and then the next you're doing a cooking show, chances are it's going to be very difficult to build rapport and trust you as a creator. The simple way of saying this is that people lose trust because they don't know what they're about to expect. Are they jumping in for this experience, or is it going to be something completely different? They don't know. Alex Hormozi is probably one of the best examples I can use here. More or less, his content is about entrepreneurship, growing a business, or sales to some degree. He creates vlogs, behind the scenes carousels, infographic posts, newsletters, articles, webinars, live workshops, and everything in between. The message is always the same, and doing that allows you to compound that sense of familiarity. So beat the drum consistently and don't divert from the main message. The lesson here is to have one clear message. Arguably, these lessons alone have been some of the hardest to learn because I've had to live them through experience, but have allowed me to build an audience that isn't just passive followers and viewers, but is active buyers that are constantly purchasing my products or services or referring them to people who could. That, in my opinion, is the power of video doing it right. And whilst it takes a bit of time to get there, I'm hoping that from the lessons that you've learned in this video, you can implement them into your own videos and actually get the results that you're looking for. I'm Jack. I've created videos for the last 15 years, and the goal with my YouTube channel is to help you create harder working videos that get you leads and makes selling feel easier. One way that you can do that for free right here, go and check out this video on just 15 minutes around the new way of video marketing, and I hope that it helps. It's a good one. See you there.